Creations, where we sew the scraps of your life into beautiful creations. Today I have something kitchen-y. It doesn't have to be kitchen-y, but let's take a look. Okay, so Thanksgiving is this coming Thursday. Now this could be made for any time of year, any time whatsoever. I'm going to give you 2 examples actually. But what do you think of this? Right? Cute. So, it has a perfectly mitered corner, or 4 of them actually. And it could be a placemat. It could be in the middle of your table. You could just set some pretty dishes on it. You could do any number of things with it. Or you could make a little one. Look how cute that is. Isn't that cute? So you've got a larger one, a smaller one. Now this could be a mug rug, a candle holder. There again, endless possibilities. But I thought that was cute. I used 4 pieces out of a charm pack, a little scrap of the truck fabric. This was a panel that I had, so I just put fabric around it, and I'm going to show you how to make these. This one will use applique, this one will not, so it's kind of like you're getting 2 videos in one. We're using the same method to finish it, but there's just so many ways you could go. You could find just 1 piece of fabric that you like. Maybe you have some scraps left over to use, maybe. Let's go see if we can make this. This is going to be fun. Let's take a look at what we're going to need today. So, not to confuse you, but we're going to make 2 items today. So I'm going to run through what we're going to need to make each. And all it really is using the same method, but in different shapes and sizes, with a little bit of applique thrown in there for fun. If you don't like applique, that's fine too. Okay, I'm going to call this my placemat. Okay, so actually I'm going to be using it as a centerpiece, but that's okay. Mine measures 14 inches by 18 inches, and yours can measure whatever you want it to be, okay? This isn't something that you need to be exactly the same as, you don't need to have it exactly the same as I have. You do it whatever you need it to be, okay? Then you're going to need either a piece of cotton batting, or 2 layers if you want. I'm using a piece of Pellon 987 fusible fleece, which I cut at just a little bit smaller than this. Now, as you can see, I pieced this. I had it was a panel, I guess you'd call it, that, I thought I had it right here. Anyway, these came off a panel that I purchased, and there was everything from scarecrows to, pumpkins and all sorts of cutesy little things on there. And I finally decided that having it 5 years is long enough. Let's use it. So I just put pieces on each side, top and bottom, to make my little centerpiece, placemat, whatever we're going to call it. Okay? So you're going to take the scratchy side of your Pellon, which is this one, and you're going to put it against the wrong side. Now, if you use cotton batting, you're either going to pin it in place or you're going to spray baste it, okay? And this is just, as you see, just a little bit smaller all the way around. What I normally do is just cut a 1/4 inch shorter on the side and the bottom. The other thing you're going to need is your backing, okay? And I would normally, this is how it's going to go, but we'll get to that. You would have your wrong side facing up, but just because it's brighter, I wanted to show you. Now this is 14 by 18. This just needs to be 2 inches all the way around bigger, so 4 inches. So This measures 18 by 22. So whatever this size is, add 4 inches to the side and 4 inches to the top and bottom. So 14 by 18, 18 by 22. I added 4 inches on the side and 4 inches on the top and bottom. And that's what I need for this placemat centerpiece. But as I said, we have a second project today. Now, if you're watching this the day I put this out, or pretty soon thereafter, you're going to know that I've been sick and I haven't had a video out in a couple of weeks. So I thought I would throw in kind of an extra project, just a different way to go about this. So I received these beautiful Christmas prints. I got a charm pack from Kimberley over at My Fabric Addiction one, and I couldn't wait to get into those, so I was really excited. So as you see, I chose 4. I just simply sewed them together, and then I trimmed them, and this measures 9 inches square. Again, you can use whatever you want. So I cut a piece of fusible fleece at 8 3/4 inches square, and I will fuse that onto the back of this. And because this is 9 inches and I need to add 4, this is 13 inches square. Now, I'm going to make this be, I guess, kind of like a mug rug or a snack. I'm not really sure what they call them, but I thought, how can I dress that up? Well, I found that little scrap of fabric. So I dug out my heat and bond. So if you're going to do applique, you can use heat and bond, you can use glue, you can use the method where you turn the edge of the fabric under. You use whatever method you like to use for applique. Personally, I use heat and bond. So again, this is 9 inches square, and you need cotton or fusible fleece to go underneath there, and this is 13 inches square. This is a scrap of fabric and some heat and bond. What else will you need? You're going to need a ruler, and not just any old ruler will do. You're going to need a ruler that has at least 1, but preferably 2 45-degree angle marks. Now mine only has 1, so I'll be able to show you how I get around that, because if you had 2 and they kind of look like part of a triangle, it works out a little bit easier, but we can make this work. All right? So again, whatever size you want your placemat or whatever it is that you're making to be, you cut it. This is your finished size, so whatever you choose for this top measurement is the measurement that it will be when it finishes, because this is going to fold right in against it. So you make this top whatever your desired finished size is. So you need your top, your batting or fusible fleece, your backing, and if you're doing this, you need a little bit of heat and bond, something to applique on there, or maybe you just want to use some fancy stitches. And of course you can do any number of things. Maybe you have some crazy blocks laying around, or some crumb blocks, or some stringed pieces that might be left over from a quilt. You can use anything that you want to make this. All right, so the only other thing that I would suggest is some sizing, starch, or best press. Before I cut out this backing piece, I give it a light spray with the finishing spray. The reason for that is when I fold my edges in and press them, this helps hold that. And yes, I use my wooden clapper, and that helps as well, but when you want your edge to stay in, I suggest using a product to keep the fabric just a little bit firmer to the touch. So that's what I would suggest. It's not necessary, but I find it to be helpful. Okay, so we are going to get started. I'm going to lay everything out on the table and we're going to give this a go. All right, let's take a look at what's next. So this is my fusible and my top. So I may as well take care of that right now. And again, if you're not used to fusibles, what you do, there's always directions on your package that I would say, you know, do what your directions tell you to do. Right now, I have the steam on my iron and I have it set to the cotton linen setting. And I'm centering my fleece. And I'm going to press it. And I've said this quite a few times, but if you're new here, get used to me saying this. Don't iron. Don't go back and forth like this, especially with something like this. You're going to stretch it out of shape. You just want to press it. So I'm just lightly lifting in between. I'll get myself some more cord here. That could be disastrous not to have enough cord. I even unplugged it. All right. Anyway, we're going to use the heat of the iron with some steam to get this all pressed. Just lift it a little bit in between there. I like to use lots of steam when I'm using fusibles, but some of them say not to. So, as I mentioned, just follow your manufacturer's direction. I love this fabric. I've had this fabric for quite a long time now, and I have a little scrap of it left now, but not very much. Finally using it for something. And I had something else here that would have matched just as well. I'll show you that here in a second. I had a really hard time deciding on this. I really did. I just couldn't make up my mind for the longest time. You ever do that where you go back and forth and you just keep looking at something going, oh, which way do I want to go? And just because I wanted to show you, I can't find it. Of course. Oh, I have a small piece of it. That will do. So this was just another brown swirl kind of. And I thought it went pretty well with this, but I like this rusty brown much better. And then this backing had enough of the colors in the turkey that I thought it would make a good border. Okay, so now we're going to take our backing, fold it in half, and you're going to want to be pretty precise here, folding it in half. And I want you to just press that edge. See that corner over here? You don't need to press along the whole thing. We're doing this to make marks. I guess it would help if my iron were on. When I unplugged it, I didn't turn it back on. Okay, my iron is hot. Strike while the iron is hot. All right, so again, I'm just trying to get a mark right here with my iron. Something you can see. And I should have mentioned when I was telling you what you needed for supplies, I forgot to mention that you're going to need a marking pen, pencil of some kind. I use a water erasable. But, you know, if this is dark, even if it's somewhat like medium in color, you're going to be marking on the wrong side of the fabric. So if you have a pencil and you make a light mark, that will work as well. Okay, I'm going to pause this and get rid of my ironing board. Okay, so I can see where my creases are that I made with my iron. Okay, Now we need marks on this because we need everything centered. So I'm going to fold this in half. Again, very carefully. You want to make sure that you've got it perfectly. And then I'm going to pin it to hold that center. Same thing down here. We're going to do the same thing, oopsie, on your sides. So you fold it up this way. Okay, now we're going to put this like this. Now this is the wrong side facing up. That's just how you want it. Wrong side up and right side up. We're going to match, match our pins to these marks. And if you mark or match them perfectly, you can check, but you should be 2 inches out all the way around. 2 inches. 2 inches. 2 and 2. All right, I'm good to go there. Now, here is a part where you could spray baste, you could pin, but you want to hold this right in place, right where it is, because we're going to do some quilting. We need to hold this down to our backing. The one thing I want to warn you against is this. I don't want you to sew much past here. You want to come up to this edge of your top, but you don't want to be quilting out into the edge of your backing there. Just kind of avoid that area. And this, a lot of what you quilt will depend. Maybe you want to use some free motion quilting. Perfect time for free motion quilting. Maybe you want to, let me see, I'll take a look at this. I'll probably stitch in the ditch along here, and then I'll probably use some decorative stitches along the sides. Of course, if I wanted to get kind of fancy on this, I could applique other little items on the side, but I'm not going to do it on this one. I think that picture in the center is enough. So he will be fine that way. Just fine. A fine turkey. All right. So we're going to quilt this as you want. So I'm going to quilt this, and then I'll meet you back here. I just got thinking, maybe I should make some quilting lines with my ruler. Maybe that would be a good thing to do. So I'm using a water erasable pen. I'll leave the link to that below. I'll leave links for anything I've used up to this point. I have the fabric, where I purchased, or where those Christmas fabrics came from, the charm pack. I'll link the Pellon 987 fusible fleece, or the cotton batting. All right, so let me see how many inches I have here. There's 6 inches, so I could quilt it at 2 and 2. All right, I'm going to stitch in the ditch, and then I think I'll just come out 2 inches and mark that. 2 inches all the way around. I might use a serpentine stitch. I'm not really sure what stitch I'm going to use at this point. for the decorative, but I won't know until I get there, right? But this is one that you just take a damp washcloth or paper towel, and when you're done with it, and the marks come right up off there. Pretty slick. I had one that I bought with this that was air erasable. The problem with that was that sometimes you couldn't even get the sewing done before the air really erased it. It did its job quite well. I do have some other marking utensils. I have some chalk. I have two different kinds of chalk, and both kinds I'm not a fan. And I know there's got to be some kind of perfect marking pencil out there. I also have what's called a Hera marker. And I don't know if you've seen these or heard about them. But basically you go like this and they make a mark on your fabric. I don't know if you can see that. All right, so I'm going to go stitch in the ditch, and then I'm going to do some kind of decorative stitch probably around that square. Maybe not, we'll see. But I will be back with that. Right, I have it all quilted. I haven't removed my marks yet. They're still on there, but I will remove them. I made a mistake and ended up cutting the edge. So now I've had to trim it to 1 3/4 inches. I think it's still going to work fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this backing just up to our top, okay? Just up to this edge here. And this is where it comes in handy if you've sprayed this with the sizing, starch, something or other, because it helps hold it in place. What we're doing right now is making crease lines, and I'm just pressing this. So we're going to do this all the way around, the same thing. Just fold it up to the line. I love this method. You get such a nice little mitered corner. Of course, there's so many ways to do mitered corners, but this is just another way, and I think it's always fun to mix it up a little bit. Don't worry about your side crease there. Not going to hurt a thing. One last edge. I really like that turkey. I don't know why it took me so long to use that fabric. Do you do that? Do you have fabric that you like and then you don't use it because you like it so much that you don't want to use it? Am I the only one who does that? A friend of mine sent me some gorgeous fabric, and it's the same thing with that. First I said, oh, it came from Australia. I don't want to use it yet. I want to find the perfect thing. And now I'm like, it's so pretty. I don't want to cut it. I will, of course. And now we're going to need our marker again, or our pen, whichever you're using. And I'm going to use a small, well, one of my smaller rulers. Okay, so we have these crease lines here. I'm sure you can see them here on camera, but you'll see yours better in real life. And here's where you could use a pencil. In fact, that's what I'll use just to show you how safe it is. And you're going to make a mark right on that crease so that you can see it a little better, because you're going to need that because it's going to be under your sewing machine soon. And that's why we are making the marks with the pencil. So line it right up with your crease. And can you see that? I've made that mark. So I'm going to go along and do all four. I won't bore you. I'll pause this. Okay, I'm back and all of my corners have these lines. Now I'm going to move this camera just slightly. I want to zoom in enough so that you can see. Okay, you have a 45-degree angle on your ruler. Now, like I said, if you had one that had what looks like a triangle, so you had a line here and a line here, this would be one step simpler, but you can still do this, okay? Keep your eye on the corner. Now, place this 45-degree mark along the edge of the top, okay? This is what we're doing. Right here, I'm going to line it up directly, perfectly, right up this line. The next thing I want is this 1/4 inch mark. You need to be 1/4 of an inch out from this corner, okay? I'm going to lose the tip of my pencil, I can tell. Oops. All right, so line your 45-degree mark up, and then watch your 1/4 inch. And if your ruler, if you had the correct ruler like I talked about, you'd be able to just take your rotary cutter and mark it, or cut it across. But because I don't, I'm going to measure from each of these sides. So it's only one little step. So I line it up, 1/4 of an inch. Make sure it's, whoops, make sure it's perfect and I don't move it. Because that's what I keep doing. And I'll make a mark. Now, I'm just going to cut that off. Whether I should do them all at once or just one at a time, but I'll do it one at a time. And that way you'll be able to see how it's done more than once, in case this, because the first time I saw this done, it took me a little while. But like I said, if you had the ruler that had two 45-degree angles opposite each other, it makes it even that much simpler. But there's nothing difficult about it. Like I said, you want 1/4 of an inch beyond this, okay? So line your 45-degree angle up. There we go. Make your line. Same thing again. Flip it the other way. Make sure it's 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just, there's an intersecting line where my 1/4 inches are. Some scrappy triangles if one were into them. I'm not. I love scraps, but I don't care for triangles. I never did. I do throw them in from time to time, piece them together and throw them into a scrappy crumb block. But and out of this whole thing, I would say this would be, not that it's tricky, but the trickiest part of it, if you could call it that. Because we're almost done. And again, we're going to do the 1/4 or the 45-degree angle. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit better on that so that you can see. Now you see how my 1/4 inch mark, whoops, I just go and move it now. My 45-degree angle is lined up along this whole length. And there's a 1/4 inch mark right there. It's almost like a V. So when you have that, you know it's sitting on there perfectly. And then you just do it from the other direction, lining it up to the edge, just like that. Makes a perfect line, and we'll cut it off. And that part's done. We'll go on to the next one. Okay, my camera is adjusted again, so let's see if I can show you this next part. Okay, so now we have our corners cut off. As you can see, they're all cut off. So choose a corner, any corner, and fold it. So you've got your back. Fold it back side to back side. Okay. I'm going to line this up. The crease and your mark is right there. I'm going to put a pin in there. I'll tell you, if you use clips, that's fine, but on any other project, but you need a pin for this because this has to be precise for your angle to work correctly. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sew from this mark right where that pin is. We're going to sew from here to here. And that's only, well, for me it's off because I had to cut it off, but anyway, a little over 1 inch. So you're going to back tack, sew down, and back tack using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I don't want you to catch the corner of your placemat. Okay, just keep that out of the way. You can fold it back if you need to, or if you have the space. So again, back tack, stitch, back tack from that line. Okay, so let's go around and pin them all. So just back sides, the back of the placemat, right sides together. And I like to put a pin right on that mark so I know that that's where I'm going to go with my needle. You're just folding it towards itself. I can't wait to do that smaller one. That one's going to be so cute. And hopefully I don't mess up and cut my fabric by mistake. This kind of looks like a box. All right. Last one. Going to take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to show you one more time before I do. Just to make sure. I'll go over it one more time. So you're going to start sewing on that line, the line that we drew. You're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to start and back tack, go down, back tack, and you're going to do that on all 4 corners. And I'm going to tighten my stitch up to either a 1.8 or a 2.0. You want it a little bit tighter on this, okay? Because you want a nice, neat corner. Well, that didn't take long. Now this is what it should look like. Looks kind of funny. You've got a little bit of a flap unsewn. Looks kind of like a V. Anyway, now I'm going to, not going to cut it really close, but I am going to snip this just barely, like just barely, just so I can make it lay down a little bit. What I'm going to do is this. I put my finger in this crook and I'm going to flatten that out with my fingernail a little bit. Then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flip it that way. I have a little thing I use to turn. You want to be very careful, but look at that perfect corner. Okay, so we're going to do this on all four. And like I said, you don't want to cut too close to this, so I just barely touch the scissor in there, just enough to get a little bit of a split. And then kind of fold it down with your thumb. Ever so slightly poke. Goodness, I'm trying not to do it too much, so I'm shaking. But as you can see, now before I came back, like when I had trimmed that, remember how I said 2 inches and then I had to cut it to 1 3/4? All that's going to do is make a narrower frame binding around it. It's not going to hurt anything at all. All right, now tuck this all in to your corners. And you should have something that looks like this, but not for long, because we're going to fold it on that crease. Just like this. I want to get to the first corner so I can show you what it will look like. Just fold that under. And if you wanted to take it to the iron and press it, you could. I'm going to use my fingernail to press that on both sides. See? But all you're going to do is work your way around like this. I've got pins going in every direction, don't I? But I just want to show you how perfect this looks. And of course, it will look even better when we're done stitching, because after we pin this, we're going to go and we're going to top stitch. So I want you to go probably about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge and top stitch. But right now, I'm just going to finish pinning this around, holding it in place. I'm going to top stitch and I'll be done. And I think this is a beautiful placemat. The next project, we're doing it all right in the same video, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit, because now that you know the basics of making this part, the only thing I'm really going to show you in depth would be the heat and bond part. And that's for those of you who are new to my channel or maybe missed some of my other videos about heat and bond. I also need to take a damp cloth and wipe off my marks. And again, I will leave a link in the description box below for those markers. I like them. I do have some on Amazon that I've been looking at that are a different brand and they work a little bit differently. But who knows? You know, we all get our favorite products and we like them for this reason or that reason. And, you know, we all like what we like. But that doesn't mean that everyone likes the same thing. But that's something I'm going to try out at another time. Now, normally I would iron this. And I know anyone who's been here a while knows I'm going to go press this before I sew it. Okay, so just showing you how it's all laid in place like this. All right, you basically get the drift. I'm going to go press it just a little bit, and I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to use a 3.0 millimeter stitch length because that's what I like to use, either a 3 or a 3.5 when I'm top stitching. But other than the top stitch, we're done with this. So you meet me back here in just a moment. Right, I have top stitched around. That's what my stitching looks like. My placemat is done, and as I said, we'll go on to part 2, and I'll show you just quickly what I do differently on this one. I don't need a washcloth. Okay, so I have a piece of the Heat and Bond Lite, okay, Heat and Bond Lite, and I want to use this truck. The only thing I haven't decided is whether I just want to use the truck and cut off the Christmas tree, because it's really dark. It's very hard to see that tree, so I'm thinking I'm going to just leave it out of the equation. Okay, so the wrong side of your fabric, and then put the shiny, scratchy side of your Heat and Bond down against the back side of your fabric. A hot iron, no steam, couple of seconds, and that's all that takes. And I'll grab my old pair of scissors that I use for cutting. So while that's cooling, there's my backing piece. Now this is 9 inches square. As I said, I took 4 charms, which are 5 inches, so you can use any scrap you've got or leftover charms. And I put my fusible fleece rough side down against the back. You could also use cotton batting. I'm going to turn on my steam. Give this some heat and steam. There's just so many different things that you guys could do with this. I definitely wanted to give you the method, as well as just a couple of ideas. Not that these are the greatest ideas as far as applique goes, but it gets you headed in the right direction. All right, so now we're going to cut this out. So first, let me get my extra fabric off there. And I'm not going to get really precise here. And then the next thing will be this. Do I want it straight? Do I want it at an angle? You know, it's so hard to know which way to go. I think kind of right straight. Okay, so you peel off your backing. Looks just like one of those iron-ons. You've got a shiny side here. And you can place it and play around with it a little bit. It's not sticking anywhere yet. I am going to see where the center is so I can better place it that way. And when you're happy with it, you take your dry iron again and just a couple of seconds. Now, I am going to stitch over this. I'm going to make sure I have my backing on there first, my back piece. So again, we're going to do the same thing like we did with the first one. Find your centers and mark them. And for anyone wondering, no, I haven't given the creative word of the day yet. Okay. Now I'm going to, I was going to say I'm going to fold this, but you don't need to fold if you do it this way, because we know where our centers are. They're right on our edges. So you line everything up, every line with every crease. And then just like the other one, I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to quilt it. And I'll meet you back here. Because again, we're almost done because you know how quick this is going to go. Just going to hold this in place in all four corners. So what I'm going to do with the truck is this. Now the heat and bond holds it on there pretty well. Let me zoom in there a little bit. All right, so I'm going to come in about 1/8 of an inch from the edge and I'm going to stitch all the way around here, okay? That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to back tack at the beginning and the end. Now you could zigzag, you could decorative stitch, maybe you've got a snowflake stitch or something like that. I'm just going to straight stitch. I'm going to use a dark gray color thread. There again, you could use red, green, white, whatever you wanted to use. Okay, I'm going to go do that and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, I quilted around or just sewed around the truck. You probably can't see that. I thought about doing some outline quilting, but for the sake of time, I'm going to call it a day on that. All right. So from here on out, I'm going to go in fast mode because you've already seen this on the other one. So I'm just going to speed this up and you'll see me finish this. So I'm going to give the creative word of the day. And today that word is truck. So if you're new to my channel, I give a creative word of the day during a tutorial and a What's Up Wednesday video. And if you use that word in the comment section below the video, your name goes in a drawing for a monthly prize that I give away. All right, let's go do this. And here we go. Isn't that adorable? I think that's so cute. And it's our first ever Christmas item right here on Marie's Scrappy Creations because I haven't even been here since last Christmas. So my channel's only 9 months old. I think this is adorable. So it could be a mug rug. You could place a candle on it. It could be so many different things, but I think it's adorable. So placemat, mug rug, whatever you'd like to make using this method. I hope that you have a lot of fun with it. They're very quick and they're easy and you can use small pieces. So that's got to be a win, right? I want to thank you for hanging out with me today here at Marie's Scrappy Creations. And until next time, be kind out there. The world needs more of that. I'll see you next time right here.